Welcome to another episode of Relationship Essentials. I'm excited to talk about relationships and how we can do it in a way that honors God and attracts God's favor on our lives, right? So I'm excited. I'm joined by Juliet, Miss Juliet
Hola.
Nana Sewa Amwa. You guys met her last time, so
Ghana in the
how you
house.
feeling?
I feel good. I'm really excited. I feel like the last episode was really good. Um, and I'm excited for today's topic. It's gonna be
Yeah, it's gonna be
spicy.
spicy. Yeah. So we have a
We
good
both.
topic, but before we get into it, please
Oh yes.
subscribe. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, please. We need 29 more people to hit 1,000 subscribers. Let us help us get there. If you have friends, encourage them to subscribe. The more people that watch the video, comment on the video, like the video, the more people get to see the video. So that is all we ask you to do. And you can support by buying our merch. Our merch is like a free way for you to do evangelism. Every time you wear the shirt or the hoodie, you are reminding people to do it God's way. And God's way is the best way to do anything. So I'm
That's
excited.
right. That's right. I'm excited too. I got my RE jersey on, rocking that. So yes, make sure to support.
So
For
are you
sure.
ready? You want to tell them the topic for today?
I think you should. You should introduce it.
You don't want to be the one that is in trouble. Wow. Okay. This is crazy. All right. What is Sean saying again? It's are you waiting too late
Mm.
to get married?
Dun,
That is
dun,
the topic today.
dun.
Are you waiting too late to get
Mm.
married? Juliet, I want to
Child.
ask you. Are you waiting too late to get
I
married?
don't mind waiting.
Okay, there we go. To the
I
spiritualizing
don't
your.
mind waiting. No, honestly, I do think that Sean's like I can't. Honestly, I do think, to be honest and to be real and being fully transparent, I am in my early 30s, and I honestly thought by now I would have been married, right? Like I always thought I was gonna marry super young, like by 25. I was gonna be married. I was gonna have my kids, and I think that it didn't work out that way, which is fine because I feel like at the end of the day, God has a better plan, right? But I do think that if I could decide, I would encourage people to get married early. And I think it just eliminates also more temptations, right? Because I think as you get older, it does get harder to be, waiting, doing it God's way, the right way. That's just being real, right? Like it doesn't automatically go away. So I do think that if you can, marry early, I 100% recommend it. And I think it just saves you from a lot of the like just waiting to get older and older for what? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I guess that's like a long way to say yes.
yes.
Okay, all right.
I had to give you guys, listen, I had to give you guys the context. I wasn't just going to be like, yeah.
You're pretty much justifying why you're not married.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Which
that's
is
right.
fine.
Yes.
Which is fine. But I mean, the question is, do you like? Even for me, I feel like I waited too late. Oh, I'm not married.
I was
now.
about to say, you're not married either.
Right, I waited.
We all
too
in the
late.
same boat.
Right, so that's why we should talk about it.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I do think that I don't know if it's I don't have any studies, but I'm pretty sure if we did a study, it would show that our generation is waiting longer to get married than the previous generation.
And I think we've had a conversation about that. And I know some people may disagree, but I also, remember I told you, I think a lot of it has to do with social media. Like, I keep saying this, and people think, like,
But before we even talk about, not to cut you off, but
Yes.
before we even talk about why, because I want to talk about why, because I'm
Yes.
sure people that are listening to the video, I don't know if they're young, old,
Mhm.
but whatever it is, maybe we can help them identify why they're waiting and why they shouldn't wait, right? But so, I think if we talk about doing relationship the way that God wants it to be done,
right.
then we have to identify some of the roadblocks that stop us from honoring Christ in our walk, or that creates an environment where our relationship actually aids the expansion of the kingdom of darkness as opposed to growing God's kingdom, right? So before we talk about why people wait to get married, right? So I could say for myself, right? If I could do it over again, I would get married earlier.
I agree.
So, question is why? Why would you get married earlier?
I personally would get married earlier because I also think that marriage is ministry, right? Like, I think that was something that I learned very early on, that it is ministry. Like, you're not marrying just because, oh, I want to have sex. I used to have that mindset, like, oh my God, I just want to be able to have sex, so let me just marry early. And that's not what it is, right? It's a ministry. And I also do think that there's a lot of benefit to just being able to like start that process a little bit earlier as opposed to waiting. Again, we're not trying to say there's anything wrong or like, you know, it's terrible, but we know things happen. Clearly, we're both not married and we're in our 30s, but there is such a great benefit to marrying early if you can, right? And I think that it just eliminates a lot of distractions and a lot of toxic traits that you can start to get as you get older, and you get to get stuck in your ways about things, as opposed to like building and doing that earlier on, which is what I think God wants.
Yeah, so the previous episode we talked about eliminating the boyfriend stage and the girlfriend stage. There are a lot of things that I think has been introduced to us that doesn't aid in building what we want. It's like I want to go to Jersey, but the GPS that I've been given or the directions that I've been given is leading me to Long Island. I feel like that is what society have done with us. And that is why sometimes the inability or the ineffectiveness of the church to teach marriage have led us heading to Long Island when we're trying to head to Jersey.
Right.
Right? So when I think about like what society have taught us, so a lot of the reasons, so think about it, right? So it's crazy. I think about it all the time. Society doesn't push marriage, but they push relationship.
I know, it's crazy.
So it's okay for people to have boyfriend and girlfriend in middle school and in high school. But if you when you bring up the conversation of getting married, people are like, oh, why would you want someone that's 21 to get married?
Right.
They're not ready for marriage.
But you okay with having boyfriend, girlfriend, and you doing stuff.
And I'm like,
that's true. But I guess they feel like the marriage is like a longer commitment. So they feel like, no, you shouldn't be tied down at 22. You need to live your life. And I think that's what culture teaches people, like establish yourself in your career, figure out who you are before you just jump into something.
Well, I guess we can start talking about some of the reasons why people get married later on in life as opposed to earlier, and why it's not a good reason.
Right.
Because honestly, I have thought about it. All the reasons why people wait, not all. Let me take that back. Most of the reasons that people are waiting to get married for are mostly invalid.
But then someone watching could say, well, both of you guys are not married yet, so why are you?
Because we did it wrong. Like, that's the point. Like,
so what would you do differently?
Like, I always want people to remember that this platform was born out of the fact that I didn't have a mentor in the area of relationship, and I made a lot of mistakes.
Right.
And I started this to serve as mentorship for people that are in their journey, so they don't have to repeat the same mistakes that I've repeated.
That's true.
Right. Yeah. So it's not coming from a place of condemnation. It's coming from a place of, look, we all need to do this thing called relationship better, because it's like in Romans chapter 6, not to bring scriptures in, but Paul talks about how when we were slaves to unrighteousness, we didn't produce any good results. And he says, now that you've become slaves to righteousness, you should make yourself useful to the kingdom. One of the things that motivates me to do things the way God wants us to do it is the fact that I look at how doing it my way and the way culture pushes for us to do it. I'm like, look at what we've produced.
Right.
We've produced
chaos.
Nonsense. Yes. Right. We produce trash.
Right.
So at what point do we get tired of the bad results we have and say, you know what, I need to do it better?
I think also to your point, to kind of just go back to like why some people don't marry early or why they wait a little bit later. And I think that the culture's mindset is, especially for women, sometimes like, oh, you know, establish yourself in your career and like, you know, you need to focus on that. Don't be so tied up to a man, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you realize then
then the question is, so we talk about the reason, right? Anybody can have a reason. Like if somebody goes and steals, they have a reason for stealing. It's not like I just woke up and I wanted to steal something.
Right.
All right. I was hungry, so I stole. My family needed something to eat. One of the things my coach used to tell me, and I hope people remember this, excuses don't explain and explanations don't excuse. Just because you have a reason for doing something doesn't mean it's valid or it means the behavior is condoned. Right? So let's talk about some of the reasons. Now, obviously, some of them are valid. Some people, there's always going to be exceptions.
Yes.
But we're talking about the norm, like the 97 percentile. So let's talk about the first thing you talked about, right? Women that are, oh, you know what, I don't want to put myself in a position where I have to depend on a man. So just in case something happens and this marriage doesn't work, I don't want to be left stranded.
Right.
Is that coming from a place of love or trauma?
Right.
Or is that coming from a place of fear?
It's fear.
Or love?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when women tell me they want to build their career, I always say, why can't you build your career and get married? I
agree. And I think that's the problem. I think culture has created, and I think, like, even when you were talking about it on the last episode about the whole boyfriend-girlfriend thing, I think as Christians, we've allowed the culture to influence, because you even hear some Christians be like, oh, no, you know, I just want to wait, girl, you know. And it's kind of like, but that's not what you should really be doing, right?
What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for? I think it's different if you're like, and then some people also say, I'm waiting on the Lord, which I used to always say that. Like, I'm waiting on the Lord. I'm waiting on the Lord.
It's when people spiritualize that nonsense.
Waiting on the Lord. And God's like, but I'm sending. And I'm like, I'm waiting on the Lord. You know, and I think it's also a matter of, like you said, that fear, right? Like that fear and that trauma. And like, what have you been through that's allowing you to have that mindset? Because is it coming from God? Is it godly? Is it coming from what the Bible is saying? Is it like what a Christian should have as a mindset? Or is it just coming from your own personal trauma and fear? And that's not...
Or what happened to their mom.
Right. Like, it becomes this generational thing, too, if you're not careful. Like...
Absolutely, because most people that have trauma is not from a place of, like, it doesn't come from nowhere. It came from somewhere.
Yes.
Maybe your mom depended on your dad for money. And then your dad messed up. And now your mom was stranded. So now you made a decision that I'm not going to put me and my kids in that same predicament. And that is respectable.
Yeah.
I respect that. But also we have to not take an inventory and say, all right, that mindset, like I always love that scripture. 1 John chapter 4, it says, he that fears has not been perfected in love. When we make decisions out of fear, it's because love is lacking somewhere in our heart.
Right.
So when I lack love, I fight for love. Even when sometimes it feels like I'm being self-reliant, or what I'm really doing is crying out to be loved.
That's good. Yeah.
So we debunk that. So if you're listening and you're like, I want to get my career together, you can do both, because most women are still dating and.
But then let's also flip it too. What about the fellas? Why are the men?
All right, so that's
because they be like 65 years old, like I'm ready to settle. Like you 65, like you're a whole grandfather, and you are now ready. Like let's do it. Like, what?
I think for men.
I mean, there's a double standard too, because they can marry at like.
I mean, but that's part of the problem. The double standard is part of the problem. I think men are not taught to be intentional about marriage, and most men, honestly, when they get married, they are not ready to be a husband. They are ready to have a wife.
Say that again. Let's break that down. Say that again.
When most men get married, they are not ready to be a husband. They are just ready to have a wife.
Yes.
So most men, especially some men from the African culture, is like, all right, after a certain age, everybody has that age where everybody's like, oh, when are you getting married? When are you getting married?
Africans be like 21. When are you getting married? Right? You finish college.
So, so I feel like some men get to this age and they're like, all right, I want to have kids, so let me get married. Or I need to pay less money on my taxes. Let me get married, right? Yo. So it's like the purpose of marriage for some men is not from a place of fulfilling God's agenda. It's from a place of, let me fit into society. Let me fit into the mold of society. Society expects me to be married at 35. So most men, when they hit between 30 and 35, all right, now let me focus. But if you think about it, if you were intentional about getting married, as most people, but even for women, we're going to talk about women. Now, since you bring it, so you got to address the men, I'll address the women, right? That's fine, all right. So for men, it's like, all right, when I get to that age, I've played around. Now I want to be intentional. And that's the problem, because men are taught to, Like they are not taught discipline. They don't know the purpose. Like I really think I'm gonna do an episode next month on what is marriage and what is the purpose of marriage. Because most men don't know why sex was designed. So they have used sex as a medium for self-gratification when sex was designed as a way of God glorification.
Yeah.
So now whatever I don't understand, I will mismanage. Whatever is misunderstood is mismanaged. And God really put us on earth to be stewards. I think Miles Monroe always says this. When the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable.
Yes.
So abuse is literally two words, abnormal and use, the abnormal use of a thing. So men have been taught and conditioned by society to abuse sex.
Yes.
And that is demonic.
Yes.
Because when you're not building God's kingdom, you are building the enemy's kingdom.
And that's on period.
So for the women, I realize women typically get more intentional. You will meet a girl, right?
Wait, more intentional when?
Don't worry, I'm
Okay,
covered.
okay.
You can give your feedback.
Okay.
So you will meet women in their 20, 21, 23, 25. They have all these suitors. They have this guy that is serious, wants to marry them, and they feel like there's this delusion or this idea that I have time. And then you see the same woman that had 50 suitors at 25. She mismanaged all of them. She had no time. She mismanaged all her suitors at 25. At 30, now she's now wants to marry the guy on the first date.
Okay, wait.
Why do women all wait to their 30s to start taking dating seriously?
Okay, so it could be two things, right? Because I also think some women are also not ready. Like some women feel like which is bad. They still want to see what else is out there. They want to,
that's the problem.
you know what I mean? Like I don't want, or maybe the guys are not coming fully correct.
All right,
that's another thing.
Let's not.
Because some of these fellas.
Okay, let me tell you something. I'll say this. Some people might be offended by it, but I'll say, if most women are as intentional in their 30s to find a husband as the way in their 25, 90% of women will be married.
I agree.
You see how women in their 30s are so focused? Oh, I don't have time for this nonsense. I don't have time for that nonsense.
Because you also know, but then it's also
so
mature.
intentional at 30.
I agree.
Where was that intention
listen, I
at
agree.
25?
But I also think it's a maturity level too, right? Like I think some women can be very immature, and that's just being like you said it. Like when you have a lot of guys who are gonna take you out to dinner, who are gonna treat you, you feel like Princess Diana. Why do I need to settle with one? I have options, right? But then I do think that as you get older, you start to see your priorities change, your values change. Things like that do play a factor. However, I agree. It's almost like we all could be immature at that age, right? Like just being real. Like at 25, I thought I was mature. I was very immature about a lot of things about how I dated, And so I do think that also plays a factor as an age. Just us being immature and stupid about certain things.
I mean, look, I don't want to come for just the women. I think it goes both ways.
Yeah,
right?
the guys too.
But this is what I would say, right? I think society, obviously, I'm not going to blame society because we have to take responsibility for ourselves, right?
Of course.
Right? So, both men and women, I just think most people are not wise. I was reading, one of my favorite scriptures is Psalms 90, I think it's verse 12. It says, "Teach me to number my days so that my heart can live in wisdom." There's a translation of that verse that I love, right? It says, "Help me to live intentionally. Help me to realize that I will not live forever so that I might apply wisdom in the way I live."
Right.
So we see in the plans of God, wisdom saves time. Because life is measured by time.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
You don't measure life by money. You don't measure life by how much wealth you've accumulated. You measure life, at the end of the day, how many years did you live? Your lifetime. Time is the essence. And what I've seen is the ideology of waiting later on in life to get married is one of the tools and tricks of the enemy to waste our time. Because the truth is, when most people are not married, forget when they're in college. Even when they're in college, that's when they do their worst things. But even when they come out of college, think about the years between college and actual marriage. Think about how much what they would have, what most people, because some people say they've been good. Think about the trauma or the strongholds that the enemy builds in most people's lives. We're talking about porn addiction, promiscuous living, gambling problems, sexual immorality, fornication. Between that age of between when we are dating to marriage, think about all the strongholds that we are building that will now, when we finally decide to get married, all those things that were built comes back to haunt the very marriage that we've been craving.
And
so marriages don't even last. So you would think waiting to later on to get married, take your time, get to know them, blah, blah, blah. But marriages are failing just as fast.
And I think to say that also, too, I think also I'm going to play on the other side of it. I don't think that you can't be addicted to porn and be married or have all these things, right? Like that's still, like you can still have, you know, infidelity and all those issues within your marriage, right? So marriage is not going to, and that's what I was going to ask the next point. Cause right, like just to be fair, I don't think marriage is going to solve whatever issues you have internally. Like it just doesn't work like that.
Absolutely,
right?
I agree.
It helps building with someone, but you have to do the work, right? Like God really needs to transform you. But I was going to ask though, what is like, because I know we're all like, oh, yeah, in our 20s, we were just doing whatever. But, like, why? Was it that no one was telling us what to do? We weren't listening?
Nobody was telling me.
Like, right. Like, what was the reason? Like, what? Why
I think
is it that?
The idea that we all have time.
Right.
Because it's just that idea that we have time. So I think one is, like, there's this lie that, it's not even a lie. It's just a trick. Because time that is not used for kingdom building is a time that's misused.
Right.
And I know it sounds crazy now. If you're using that time to prepare for kingdom building, that's fine. But the ideology that I have time, I think for me, it's like, I have time.
Yeah.
That was for me, like, I'm young.
Yeah. Yep.
But then you're
not young spring
You're
chicken.
not young forever.
But then what about the person watching and they're like, well, you know, guys, I just haven't found the right person. So should I just settle for anybody because I want to marry young? Or like, what should we do?
Well, I will ask the person that says, I haven't found the wrong person. The wrong person.
That's the problem.
So I'll ask the person that says, I haven't found the right person, how long have you been intentionally looking for the right person?
That's true.
Because don't tell me you started looking when you turn 33.
Or what if they say like all the
you're complaining?
Or what if they're like all the guys that I like don't like me, or I'm not.
There's the one that like you. You see,
what if
there's nobody.
But that's settling. Okay, let's be real.
It's not settling. So that's the problem. What do you mean settling? What is settling?
But what if sister girl don't like brother man, and she's like, he's just not my spec. Like I don't like him like that.
So you're telling me? So let's say, for example, this woman is 35 years old. You're telling me, let's say you started dating at the age of 18. For the last
what if?
Hold on, what's the age? 17. Hold on, you're 35. For the last 17 years, you haven't met a man that you like. Then you're the problem.
No, she met him. He cheated on her. He met her. Something happened.
Okay, all right. Let's take a stop. Let's pause it, right? If every relationship that you have been in failed,
you have to. Okay.
Then there's one person that have been in all those relationships.
Sister girl.
You have to look in the mirror. You cannot. If every guy cheated on you, there's something you're doing wrong.
Hey, hey. Okay,
I don't want to mean it like I don't want to be harsh, right? Look, I think
because there's some women that can say I did everything right and he still cheated.
Then she's a liar. Then that's her problem.
No.
She lies.
Okay, so there's a reason why she did something to cheat.
There's nothing that justifies a man cheating.
Right.
But like I said, if everybody you have been in a relationship with cheated on you, there's something that you're.
Or maybe she's picking wrong.
That's what I'm saying. You are attracting the wrong.
Okay.
Who picks the person you enter a relationship?
I think that's fair. So maybe she's not the reason. Like I want to be clear here.
She is. No, say it.
No.
She is part
if a man cheats on you, you can't say, "Well, he cheated on me because I did." Because I think that's taking the blame.
We're saying there's and remember, the question here is not if a man cheats on you, whose fault is it? You said if her reasoning is all the guys that I've met were wrong and they cheated on me and they did this and they did that. I'm saying if all your relationships.
Okay.
Because remember, we're talking about some of the reasons why people don't get married early.
Yes.
You're saying because they haven't found the right one.
You're right.
And I'm saying that nobody that is intentional for 10 years.
Right. Okay.
That means you're telling me you're intentional. That means you're praying about it.
Mm-hmm.
You are practicing discipline.
Okay.
that means you are putting yourself in the right places. You're going to church. If it means being on a dating app, you are doing the necessary things to meet the right one. There is no way you will do that for 5 years, 10 years, and you haven't met the right person. Then there's something that maybe God wants you to fix. Goes back to you.
I like that.
Goes back to you.
I like
People
that.
have to take that responsibility.
Right.
If not, then what are we doing?
Okay, so I do
So
like
that is not an excuse.
Okay, so I do like that point as well too, in terms of the fact that we also have to go back to ourselves and say that what am I doing wrong, right? Because I think taking accountability is important, right? Instead of us shifting like, oh, it's the men, or it's the women, it's the women. Maybe you were dating wrong because you weren't really appreciating the women that you were dating, or you thought you had options. And the same thing for women too. So I do think that's a good point.
I think for men, I have a good reason. I have a reason, not a good reason. I have a reason that for me, I know I had that problem. One of the reasons why men or women, mostly men, because I'm a man, I can speak for men. One of the reasons why men typically wait is because there is this idea that they want this perfect woman. Looking for, it's like, I feel, it's like almost as if like, all right, I feel like I could do better.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, this girl has 70% of what I want. But this other 30%, let me go and find someone that like for me, I know for sure, I've dated people that I'm like, looking back now, I'm like, yo, they checked off some of my boxes. And I didn't have the maturity to remember that no woman comes perfect for me. I have to learn to cultivate her to be what she needs to be for our relationship. The same way I'll have to be what she wants, what she needs.
That's a good
So I think
one.
this idea that, all right, I need this perfect woman.
Yeah.
She needs to check off all my boxes. But I think now that I've matured, the person you marry doesn't necessarily have to check off every single box, but they have to have the raw materials to build every single box.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
Because I'm like, every girl got issues. Now, I mean that in a... Hey,
Everybody has poison.
That's what
You pick your poison. Somebody told me that. You pick your poison.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, I left this one to come here, Wahala. I left this one to come here, Wahala. Everywhere I go, Wahala.
Then you have a problem.
No,
You have to
I agree. I have the problem. I'm not debating. That's why I said I had to mature.
Right.
I had to mature and realize, all right, it's because I wasn't as graceful as I needed to be for some of these women. And be like, oh, you know what? Even like, all right, even though you don't have the spirituality that I need, but you have the hunger for God, and I can work with that. Or maybe you don't have the discipline in the gym, but you have the desire and you're coachable. Now, if the person doesn't because I want to make this very clear, don't go and marry a potential.
I was just about to say that.
It's a very
That's
thin line.
a thin line.
Don't someone that tell you they want to do real estate 5 years, they haven't gotten real estate license. That one is not serious. Don't fall for the trap.
True. That
potential
is true.
is not like potential is like, all right, someone that have the raw materials, all right, they are not like for me. I love working out, but this woman that I love, all right, she's not physically where I want her to be, fitness wise. But all right, sister girl, do you want to go to the gym? Do you have any desire? And the other thing I also look out for now is she coachable? Does she listen?
That's a good one. Yeah.
Because there's some people, they don't know, but they act like they know. So you can't even teach them.
And I think to your point about as you get older, more people are stuck in their ways, right?
That's
a problem. Right. So if you're already like...
all those demons have built their stronghold.
Which is true,
now I'm
right?
fighting you and your demons.
No, but it's true.
It
It is true. The older you wait, and this is not to shame anybody that's older or anything like that. We all know people go through things, and it's not like a race, right? It's not like, oh, I married at 21, so I'm better than the person that married at 31. That's not what we're trying to say. But what we're trying to say is that there's a lot of benefits to marrying earlier in life. And as you wait, sometimes the devil will even allow you to think that, oh, yeah, there's better options. Just to put you in this isolation. Before you know it, like, all of the things that God has designed for you to do, maybe marry, have kids, you realize you haven't done it because you're still chasing this perfection, or you're still chasing this imaginary man or husband that all these guys that came, you just snubbed them, right? And I think that's a very important thing to remember, that no one is perfect, right? Like, there's not going to be a perfect guy, or you're not perfect. So why would you expect and put that pressure on somebody? It's really about, like, is this person that I can work with? Do they have the basic core fundamental principles of what it means to be a Christian?
Like
the non-negotiables, right? Like, And I think if you're a Christian man and you're dating a Christian woman, it shouldn't be that hard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes we complicate it. Like,
I mean, part of the problem also is this, right? Because I do want to make the distinction that raw material. Let's be very. Cause let's talk about, because a lot of women marry men or they date men. All right, his relationship with Jesus is lukewarm, but at least he's going to church. That's not the kind of raw material we're talking about.
Yeah, that's
right?
good to clarify.
Because you have to see, the Bible said that faith without works is dead. So you can't tell me you have hunger for God, but then it doesn't show up in how you live.
Your fruit.
Right? Like by their fruits, you know them. So I think, yes, you're not looking for perfection. You're looking for that raw material. Don't look. Anyways, I want to move on to another reason why people wait too long to get married. It's so ironic. One of the reasons why people are waiting to get married or get married late is because they are trying to help God get married faster.
Wow, explain that.
So think about the story of Abraham and Sarah, right? God gives them a promise. You're going to have a child, blah, blah, blah. Sarah says to Abraham, all right, God gave us this promise. But God's way is taking a little long. So let's help God fulfill his promise. So go and sleep with my maid. And I think you will find people in their relationship, they're like, all right, I want to get married so that I can honor God. But let me do it my way to get the man that I want. So you will see people that maybe have sex. You will see people that have sex. Okay. So you will see people that have sex so that they can keep their partner. Or you will see people that have sex so that they can. It's like, it's like women would say, if I don't give it to him, he's going to get it somewhere else anyways. Crazy. So I'm married. So
compromising
to get what we want is actually making the journey longer than shorter. I really think that people need to know that. Compromising doesn't make you get what God gave you faster, wants for you faster.
Right.
Compromising, if anything, makes it longer, or you get a counterfeit.
That.
Or you get a fake version of it.
That.
So I think that people need to remember that. So if you're compromising to get married, just realize that even if you do get married,
it doesn't sustain.
It's not going to last.
Yeah.
You're going to be happy. Or most of the time, it doesn't work. Because just the biology of a man, you give him sex, and now you want him to upgrade you to wife. What is he going to get after he upgrades you? No, let's talk facts here. If the man is getting everything, you cook for him, you wash his clothes, he chook everything.
Why buy the cow if I can get the milk for free?
Now that's why women say, oh, he's not ready to commit. Because he already got everything he would have gotten from commitment.
Which is true.
So why should he commit?
That's true. That's a good one.
So I do think if you are compromising because you want to get married, realize that God is not stupid. God sees everything. You know, like there's a scripture that says that do not grow weary in well-doing, because at the appointed time, that means like it speaks to God having a specific time to which he wants to bless us.
Yeah.
Right? Because everything is already played out in the realm of the unit of God. So in the Hebrew word, that time means moed, right? And it basically says if it's not God's timing, you can't force it.
Yeah.
And if it's God's timing, you can't stop it.
Yeah.
So when we often try to force things to make things happen for ourselves, we cannot win in a battle against God.
Yeah.
We cannot.
It's like we're trying to manipulate it.
And oftentimes, God is trying to work on us. And we're trying to skip a step to get to the promised land when we have not been groomed for the promise that we are seeking.
Oh, come on now.
So,
and on that note.
So I think we should probably end it on that.
Yes.
All right, so again, thank you for listening. I think the topic is what again? Are you waiting too late to get married?
Yes.
And I think I would love for us, because I just want to put this out there. Assess yourself. If you are waiting to get married, ask yourself why. Why are you waiting? Right? And in that waiting season, ask yourself, are you truly honoring God in your waiting season? Unless you've been called to singlehood, I think you should be very intentional to get married as quick as you can. Not rush,
right?
But you should be very, intentional about it.
That's the right word. Yes.
All right?
I agree.
Anyways, thank you guys for listening. Make sure you subscribe. If you're not subscribed to the episode, to the channel is Relationship Essentials. Our Instagram is Relationship Essentials. Make sure you support us, buy the merch. You know, however you can support us, we appreciate it. Episode drop every Thursday. Every Thursday you can watch a new episode. And our goal is to equip you to do relationship in a way that honors Jesus and attracts his favor and blessings on your relationship. Thank you guys, and God bless you. All right.